Law86 here with another video, and we're here with everyone today.
Yep, everyone in the world.
Every person in the entire world.
Yep.
And you probably haven't seen this guy for a very, very long time. Guzzleman is back, and he's brought a gift.
Congratulations, you guys are parents. You gave birth, and what a better gift than champagne? You gotta have some little bubbly when you have a little baby.
That's exciting.
There we go. I'm gonna, yes, of course. Good. Is your baby hidden? I'm not gonna kill it.
Yeah.
Of the cork.
Go for it. Go wild. Go ape shit. This is like a balloon popping for me. I always get really nervous about it.
All right.
I know. I'm stopping for you. I'm really scared.
Ready? Ready? You're a parent.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
You weren't before, but now you are.
I'm pretty sure this was supposed to be for Vivi, but we're all sitting here celebrating this champagne. Vivi, why don't you get in here? Get in the shot.
Yeah, the birth was supposed to be for Vivi too, but we ended up getting drunk at a hospital, so.
She's kicking me away.
Yeah.
I will give her some of the champagne. It's going to be delicious. And who wants to do the honors?
Talking about first impressions and realities of moving to China.
Yeah, so it's like, what did you expect when you got here, before you got here, right?
Yeah, kind of images or things you might think that China might be like versus when you got here and then your mind's blown and it's nothing like what you might have thought.
So why don't we go around the table and actually talk to everyone? I mean, we all know each other really well, but maybe the subscribers want to hear your story as well. And why don't you tell everyone how long you've been in China, what you thought China was like before you got here, and then actually what it was like, and maybe how that progressed as well. And I think we all have very different experiences here because I've been here the longest. You've been here 6 years or so. You've only been here a couple years now, and you went to a completely different province when you got here as well. So why don't we actually start off with Prozzie?
I kind of thought there was like this combined image of all Asian countries, you know, the big three. You know, you got Japan, you got Korea, and China. I knew there were slight differences, but I kind of all thought they'd have like these alleyways with street food, and everyone's just kind of drinking and eating,
Sure.
and there's like neon lights and stuff, and you know, that's the basic image. You don't really know how they're gonna be, or what the people are like, or how it feels or smells or anything like that. But that's kind of I'm sure you guys understand what I'm trying to say. So I first came to Kaifeng in Henan province. Anyways, when I got there, me and my buddy, it was like 11 o'clock at night or something, and we worked at a university. Now this university, and most universities in China, not all of them, basically close their gates at around 10:30, 11 o'clock. So we're inside the gates, and we're walking down a street, and there's like things on fire, like the garbage is on fire, because of course in
You're
Henan-
literally telling my story.
Sorry.
No, it's cool.
Anyways, you know, they have no way to get rid of the garbage. They do, but it's not good enough. They have to burn it. And all the shops are closing down. There's not very many people. They're smoky. It's dark. I mean, you know, goons in the corner in the dark coughing and stuff. I mean, dust. By the way, because Henan, where I am in Henan, it's very flat, which means it's very dusty as well, very dry. Not like Guangdong. Guangdong's very wet. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I kind of wanted to go home. But you know, here I am 3 years later, and I absolutely love it here.
So that was your first impressions, right? But
Very first ones, yeah.
Has that changed at all since you've been living here?
I mean, yeah. This is gonna vary depending on where you go in China. Now, I went from central to south, so my impressions change on every province you go to. Every region's gonna be different. So, you know, it's not fair to talk about China as one kind of entity. It's varied. So yeah, no, it's miles different than my first impressions for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in southern state, Virginia, and like all I really knew of China was what my very conservative background taught me, and it was, you know, communist China,
Right.
and how terrible it is. And that was kind of my biggest fear, was like, how does this communism government like impact lives?
Sure.
So I was expecting to come here and get like propaganda posters everywhere. There's red stars and, you know, hammer and sickle, which is, you know, totally the wrong country. But I moved into Huizhou, into Zhangbei, which is a super like built up. I lived in a mall basically.
Okay.
I had a Walmart within crossing the street, and I was actually just really surprised how very capitalist and commercial, like everyone was just buying stuff, and that like didn't match with my understanding of how communism was. And, like,
Sure.
what, you get to choose what job you go to, you get to choose what major you are in a university. So just like my very flawed understanding of how communism was, like I thought the government was going to be all up in my business, which I mean, besides honestly just the visa process, I haven't really had any type of interaction with the government official unless I'm invited to entertain white people or Chinese people as a white person. So
Invited to entertain white people as well.
All right. Well, that's like the second impression that I have is like I am a mixed person. So back in the U.S., I'm like not really white. So like, coming here and being treated as a white person and like experiencing white privilege was something different and awesome.
Feels good, isn't it?
It feels amazing, guys. How being white? Holy crap!
I tried to have very few impressions or ideas about what China would be like before I came. But I did have a few kind of ideas. You know, I thought I would be eating delicious, awesome Chinese food that I loved back home. I thought I'd be eating that like 3 times a day and I would love it. I played this really cool game called Go back home, which perhaps very few of your viewers might actually be familiar with. I didn't realize it was an expectation until I arrived, but I also just like, because when you travel in most countries, you expect people to have touristy English at least, and you can kind of get by. And I arrived in Hong Kong, which was no problem, and somebody helped me across the border. And as soon as I crossed the border, I realized that it was going to be a real mission for me to get to the town I was going to. And I didn't even really realize that I'd crossed like a proper border. Like, you know, I was like, oh, I need to show my passport to get out of the metro. Okay, whatever. And then I'm like, oh wow, this is very different. And I'm in like downtown Shenzhen. So I'm walking around until finally I figure out somehow that this place I'm walking past looks like a train station. And I walk to the counter. I'm like, I want to go to Jiaoqing. And they're like, what? And I'm like, Jiaoqing. And I'm kind of quickly picking up the fact that they don't speak any English whatsoever. And I'm like, Jiaoqing. And she's telling me there's no trains, and I can't accept it because I'm like, no, I've been told there's a train. Why would anybody lie to me?
Yeah.
And so finally she's like, you know, kind of getting a little bit flustered, and she's like, there's no train. Like, there's no train. Like, really, there's no train. And I'm like, oh shit, what do I do? Like, I have no means of communication. I walk around some more until I find a bus station. And I walk in there, and I'm like, Jiaoqing. And they're like, yeah, okay. And they sell me a ticket to Jiaoqing, but I don't even know what the characters are for the city, so I didn't really know I'd bought a ticket to Jiaoqing, but finally I get on this bus, and I don't know where to get off the bus. Like, I don't know if this bus's final destination is Jiaoqing. I don't know where in Jiaoqing to get off. All I know is that I'm supposed to show up at the train. I'm supposed to arrive at the train station about 3 o'clock. And like, I end up arriving in Jiaoqing at like 1 o'clock or something. I don't know which part I'm in at all. I just sit down on some grass for like 3 hours in front of what I think is the train station Jiaoqing until like my dad showed up in a motorbike.
No way.
And I'm like, okay, good. Like, glad somebody showed up. Like, that whole process, I had no idea if I was even in the right city, let alone anything. I'm just sitting there, just sitting on the grass, just like, wow, I really, really wish I knew how difficult it was to communicate with people before I arrived.
Now, I've been in China now for 7 years, and honestly, when these guys were telling their stories, it kind of harked back to my first time when I first came to China. 52 hours, no sleep, get to Hong Kong. And previously, I'm going to say even on the plane, I have this Orientalist vision. Typical like foreigner coming to China. There's going to be misty mountains and like kind of Tibetan monks everywhere, and this flute music and calligraphy museums all over the place, you know, and like hutongs, like you said, there's little alleyways and people playing what's it called, Wei Qi, Go. What you said, communism everywhere, because that's what you see back home, right? I thought I was going to see these Soviet-style apartment blocks and hammer and sickle posters everywhere. And the funny thing is, when I got to Hong Kong, it was kind of like being in New York City. So I'm like, okay, well, none of that's true. But then I crossed the border, and just like Beard said, I crossed the border, and it's literally night and day. Back then, Shenzhen had a pollution problem, and it was kind of like a smoke screen just coming down. I get on a bus to go to Huizhou, and I'm the only one on the bus, and this girl comes up to me, and she just puts this camera on my face, just like this. Yeah. And I'm like, what the hell is... I'm already delirious, right? And they pull out of the bus station, I look around, and it looks like 1970s Las Vegas. It's like the tackiest, most disgusting LED signs everywhere, street walking hookers all over the place. It was back when Shenzhen had a real prostitute problem.
The best place in the world.
Yeah, seriously. And I'm like, holy shit, this is not what I expected, right? It wasn't as poor as I thought. It was definitely more developed than I thought, but it was tackier than I thought. It was less Chinese. It was this kind of bizarre, gross, kind of like post-apocalyptic, type feeling. Mad Max type shit. So we get to Huizhou, and there's burn barrels everywhere. Everything's on fire. People are like burning garbage everywhere. I'm like, who burns garbage in the middle of a city? Go up to my apartment. I'm already delirious, and there's like a wooden plank that I'm basically sleeping on. And I was like, what did I do to myself? Seriously, like
Thin veneer.
yeah, like a little sheet over the top of it. And I was like, this is gonna be bad, But anyway, it turned out to be a really epically fun time, and I've moved around China a bunch of times now. And stuff has changed so much since 2009. It's gotten better. It's gotten worse in a lot of ways. But I'm back here in Huizhou, the first city that I ended up in, and it's been quite the ride. But first impressions of China, I promise you, will be very different from what you had seen. Because to be honest, like back then in YouTube, there was no one making videos about what China was like. So you search like Huizhou or something. I remember there's a Malaysian guy, and he was like driving a car in like a 240p camera or something, and like I got to see some buildings or something, but I didn't actually know what the city was going to be like. So back then there was almost no information about what it was like. So your expectations really rely on your first-hand experience, and that's been quite the trip for me, for sure.
I think it's a big advice to give to you guys. If you come to China and you're really uncomfortable and you don't like it here, it's 3 months and it just sucks. 3 months, that's nothing. Everything in 1 year, everything can totally flip around and change for you. You don't know.
Before I accepted the job at the international school that Prozzie and I work at, I met with a guy who's kind of a recruiter for different schools and different agencies. And to me, when I signed my contract, I didn't care how much I was getting paid. I didn't care. Like, my biggest concern was how my living was going to be. Like, what am I going to be living in? And I asked him, he's like, dude, if you're okay with living in like an 18 by 18 foot like cement box with a squatting toilet, which is a big deal. It's like, if you can be happy with that, then you're going to make it. And so I've come with that being my expectation. And, we're living in Zhangbei, which is like this. I lived in a hotel room, 3-star, 4-star hotel room, and everything is completely different. Not one thing has been what I expected it to be.
I just realized that we did a, expectations versus reality of China video in a Japanese restaurant.
Oh my faux pas.
Yeah. Well done, Laowinners.
Well, Laowinners tip, Laowinner tip, guys. If you expect China to be a Chinese wonderland full of dragons and mystical ninjas, then you
Which
come
I'm sure you don't.
then you come to a Japanese restaurant, because that's where you're going to end up after 7 years.
Advice too, if you're gonna make a video about it, pay some attention to what you're doing.
Cheers, hearing you guys.
Aaron, you and the beard.
Don't shoot champagne.
Sip that.
Oh my god.
Comment, share, and subscribe at the bottom.
See you next time, Laowinners.